Welcome to the Pilates Physios, where anatomy meets abs and science meets sweat. I'm Tanya Winter, physiotherapist and co-founder of Studio Pilates International. I'm super passionate about making Pilates education better and training world-class Pilates instructors with real-world skills.
And I'm James Mangahas, a physiotherapist, course facilitator, and veteran Pilates instructor.
Together, we're diving into the world of Pilates from a physio's point of view, breaking down movement science, busting myths, sharing instructing tips, and helping you become the Pilates instructor everyone wants teaching their class.
Okay, now let's talk about the Studio Pilates T-Zone. So Tan, what is a Studio Pilates T-Zone? Why did you make it up?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Look, the T-Zone, obviously you know, but for our viewers out there, the T-Zone is just a term that we've phrased at Studio Pilates that is really an image or an imagination. It's an imaginary T that sits on the front of your pelvis, a vertical line coming from your pubic bone up and a horizontal line going from hip bone to hip bone. So it forms that T on the front of the pelvis. And basically, the horizontal line of the T corresponds to your transversus abdominis, which are your deep abs or your core muscles that need to be engaged in every single exercise that you do. It's the one that flattens your abs. It's the one that supports your back. It's the one that holds everything in together and prevents injuries and gives you that nice flat stomach. Now, the vertical line of the T is the pelvic floor. So the transversus and the pelvic floor work together to really create that lowest layer of stability muscles. So they really stabilize your pelvis and your back and your abdominals. And traditionally, the Pilates exercises are amazing, but they were created quite a long time ago. And back then, we didn't really know about the transversus abdominis and pelvic floor and how important they were. So, a lot of the traditional based Pilates exercises and the cues that a lot of instructors use are a little bit based on outdated science. I did my physio degree at the University of Queensland, and that's initially where all of the transversus abdominis and pelvic floor research came out of, and just showing how important it is to get that activation to, support your back, support your pelvis and flatten the stomach. And it's not just about drawing your abs in. And a lot of traditional Pilates cues, people say things like, belly button to spine or scoop your abs or draw them in. Now, they've done research on this and they've researched the best cues on how to activate the TA. And they are not the best cues to use, but they are still ones that most courses train you to use. And it's just a little bit of outdated science. So we, tried to really base on the latest science to make sure that people were actually activating those muscles correctly. And, the science showed that the pelvic floor really helps you to activate the transversus. So when we tighten the T-zone and we say T-zone, we think of lifting up the pelvic floor first along that vertical line, lifting it up as though you're stopping going to the toilet. That gets your pelvic floor activated. And then step 2 of the T-zone is thinking of that horizontal line and drawing your hip bones in towards each other along the line. That gets that corset action of the TA, and then flattening the line in. So it's the up, across, and in. And they are the best cues to use to get someone to activate that, the deep layers of core there, transversus and pelvic floor. Why the T-zone name? It just refers people back to thinking about the T, and it's easier than saying, hey, everyone in the class, let's tighten that pelvic floor and transversus abdominis. It's just too long-winded. So, but, even if you try doing this yourself at home and you just think belly button to spine, and, the research looked at ultrasound machines looking at the muscles, it's not the best way to activate it. And once you learn how to activate it and think of those specific T-zone cues, it makes it a lot easier, and it's easier for clients to understand, and, it makes all of the exercises more effective. So that's why it was initially created.
Yeah, nice. And just like you said, it's always easier to say T-zone whilst you're in the middle of queuing than it is to go through all those other bits and pieces. And, you think it's nice to think about it even in terms of like that Pavlovian response. If you talk about mentioning the T-zone, you've already done all the Pilates basics beforehand, and people just instantly turn their T-zone on when they hear that actual terminology. So
yeah, and I mean, even though the cues of belly button to spine, scoop your abdominals or flatten your abdominals, they're not the most effective, they're also a mouthful. Yeah. And as you know, when you're instructing, sometimes it's hard to get all the cues out. And so it's just a catchy little short thing to say, and your clients all, yeah, as you say, T-zone, boop, off they tighten it. So yeah, that's why we've created it, and it is something that is unique to our courses. Yeah.